Okay, folks, well, it's been a while. I know, has measured it probably now in terms of years since I last did any Zoom stuff. All my previous stuff was on the R24 multi-track recorder, and I've not done anything since. I got a lot of feedback on those videos, most of it positive, some negative, largely around my rambling style. So I'm going to try and cut to the chase on this video, which is a quick video review of the latest product from Zoom that I've got my hands on, which is the Zoom Q2n handy video recorder. We're going to delve right in very shortly to the menus and controls, and then I'm going to give you some sound samples of acoustic instruments and bass guitar as well, so you can see how it handles those. Just a quick overview of this before I start getting in too close. It's essentially a high quality HD, full HD 1080p video camera coupled with a pair of Zoom's XY stereo condenser mics in this section here, giving that sort of a pattern and essentially a 180-degree stereo sound field. Zoom used that configuration of mics on quite a number of their recording devices, including the H1, which in fact I'm recording the audio for this video on now using this little lav mic. They also use that mic configuration on the H6 mic capsules, the H5, the H4n, the H4n Pro. So it's quite a popular and a very usable mic configuration to give a broad stereo image of the sound, and essentially what you get in here, as I've said, is a very high quality video camera coupled with a very high quality pair of mics that are capable of dealing with very high sound pressure levels, which means in loud environments such as band rehearsals, concerts, those kinds of things, you're going to be able to record good quality audio in a stereo file without the risk of clipping, as long as you have the thing set up correctly. So who's it targeted at? Well, essentially it's marketed as the camera for musicians. It has a flat base with 3 rubber feet, and the base is wider than the rest of the device, meaning that it's very stable when it's just sat on its own on a flat surface. Coupled with that, you have a standard quarter inch tripod screw mount at the bottom, which will also take the screw-in sort of rod that fits inside a mic holder in a studio environment. I believe in the accessory kit that's yet to be released, there's also a screw-in mount there to allow that then to be compatible with a whole range of action camera mounts, clamps and various things that you can attach it to microphone stands and the guitar headstocks and drum stands, cymbal stands, that kind of thing. So it's marketed as the camera for musicians. I've seen a video on YouTube recently of this being compared to a GoPro, a Hero 4, I think it was, or something like that. To be quite honest with you, it's an entirely different proposition. It's not an action camera and shouldn't be considered as an action camera. It is really meant to be, I think, set up in one position and left there static, on a tripod, on a table, on a microphone stand, something like that. It has a 160-degree wide angle lens field of view, so a couple of benefits to that from my perspective. Firstly, in confined spaces like this room or a bedroom or a recording studio where I'm rehearsing with the band, so there's 4 of us in a confined space. This is going to get us all in, including the drummer, who's normally the first to get cut out of the shot whenever we're recording on, say, an iPhone or something of that nature. So it gives a nice wide spread. And secondly, if it's just you and you're recording, for example, acoustic guitar, or you fiddling about with something, then you can get that right close up to you, giving great sound through the mics, and still fit everything in. So there's a couple of benefits. One of the downsides for some people, it doesn't particularly bother me, is that does tend to give a slight fisheye effect on the very edges of the frame when you're looking at verticals like door frames and that kind of thing. Doesn't bother me. And as you'll see in a moment when we get to the controls on the back, there is a field of view, an FOV button that gives you 5 levels of zoom with that lens, so you can get in, you can get the whole band, or you can get tight into just the lead singer or the drummer or the drummer's hands or whatever it is you want to do. So it is adjustable. When you zoom in, I think you do lose a bit of the fisheye effect then if that really bothers you. The lens itself is a constant aperture of f2, so it's a nice wide bright aperture, which is great in low light conditions. And as you'll see, there are a number of scene presets on the back for lighting conditions of various clubs, jazz clubs, rehearsal studios, garages, this kind of thing. Now, from what I can see, and I've not read any of the literature from Zoom on this, but from what I can see, essentially, as the aperture is not being varied and as the shutter speed is not being varied, that only leaves one other part of the exposure triangle that is adjustable, is the ISO setting of the sensor. So I think what's actually happening is probably 2 things when you adjust the scene presets on this for lighting conditions. Number 1, I would imagine the ISO sensitivity of the sensor is being adjusted up or down to make it more or less sensitive to light. And then secondly, I would imagine as well there's probably some adjustment being made on the white balance to compensate for different lighting conditions and make the white balance look true. So I'd imagine that's what's happening with the scene presets, but I've not read that anywhere in any official literature from Zoom. Okay, so aimed at musicians, lots of mounting options as well as just leaving it flat on a flat surface like that, very stable. XY mics, decent quality wide aperture lens with variable field of view settings. We'll go through the rest of the settings in just a moment. I've bought this to be a 1-button easy setup recording device for me when I'm playing acoustic guitar and for the band when we're in the studio. It's cheap and cheerful. It seems to be decent quality. I've been pleased with it so far. I'm going to talk in a moment about ways you can vary your approach when it comes to getting sound into this thing, which I've done already, and I'm going to show you some clips of that in a moment. But not to be compared, I don't think, with the GoPro or anything like that. Totally different proposition. It's not waterproof. It is designed to be set up in one place and leave it there. So let's, without further ado, let's take a look a bit closer at the controls and the settings, the inputs, the outputs, everything else, and then we'll give you some sound samples at the end. Okay, so let's get a look at this now a little bit closer up. Hopefully my camera that I'm using to record this on will stay in focus. Let's start on the front of the device. As I've said, you have the f2 wide aperture lens. At the top here, behind that metal mesh grille, you have the XY configuration stereo condenser mics, and then on the front, just below the lens here, and if I turn that on, you'll see that probably a little bit better. You have that little LED lights up green just to say it's switched on. It will turn red when we're recording, and it will flash red if it's peaking on the sound. If we have a look at the left-hand side of the device, we have a headphone jack, 3.5mm stereo headphone jack, and we also have a 3.5mm stereo input here. I'll talk about that in a moment, about some of the things you could do with that. And then at the top here we have a plus and minus rocker switch for volume controls if you're listening to playback on the actual camera itself, which I wouldn't recommend. It's not great quality, but it is useful if you're just looking to reference and check that it did record sound and all the rest of it. Moving to the back of the device, I'll turn it off just so it's not too distracting. Here we have another mesh metal grille concealing the speaker, so playback sound. We have a series of buttons down, 3 buttons each side, left and right, and 3 buttons across the bottom. So they're the main controls, and we'll go through that now. Let's do the bottom 3 first. So this button here initially is the on-off switch, and you just hold it for a second. You hear a little beep, and the screen comes on. That button is also used as playback for videos that are already recorded. The center button with the red dot is one touch record, and press it again to stop recording. And the little X button here on the right hand side, sorry, is how you get into the menus for settings and various other things. It also steps you back out of those menus when you finished fiddling with the settings, like date and time and all that kind of thing. Now, down the left hand side, the very first button is video mode, and it's currently selected, as you can see here in green, to 720p 24 frames a second, and it's calling that cinema. I think just because of the fact that that's probably the most common frame rate for cinema, is 24 frames a second. If I press it again, it turns the camera off, and that means now you're just recording audio, and you can use the device as simply an audio capture device like a dictaphone or something like that. And here in the middle, it confirms there's an SD card in, and it confirms the recording time left available on the card. I've put a 64 gig class 10 micro SD card, into the device, and that's given me 60 hours of audio recording only. We'll see the video capacity in a moment. And then next to that here is the battery meter. It takes two AA batteries in the bottom compartment that we'll look at in a moment. So that's one press of the video button turns the camera off and just gives you the microphones. Another press gives us 1080p 25 frames a second video and down to 5 hours recording time on a 64 gig card. Then we get 1080p 24 frames a second cinema, 5 hours again, same resolution. 720 25 frames a second is giving us 13.5 hours nearly of recording time on that. And set back to 720 24 frames a second is giving us the same, about 13 hours and 25 minutes. You should be able to see that. Moving down to here, we'll look at this through the camera in a moment, but just for now to explain this control, FOV, field of view at the moment, the green lit up word wide indicates that it's currently at its widest setting. We'll see what these look like in a short while, but I can press that 5 times and it gives various levels of zoom. So gets closer and closer all the way up to telephoto and then back to full wide. You just cycle through, and at the bottom, the third and final button on the left hand side is called scene. That's your lighting presets. So if we just flick through them, at the moment it's on auto. There's a setting there for outdoor, sunset, nighttime, concert lighting, which I think is where the lighting is changing a lot. It will cope with that a lot better if set to concert. Concert low lit, concert hall, jazz club, nice. Dance club, where there's lots of flashing bright lights and rapidly changing lighting conditions. Rehearsal studio, garage, and back to auto. So I haven't played with that yet, but they're the lighting setting presets for all the various functions. Just excuse me for a second. I've dropped my recording device. There we go. Now then, at the bottom you can see the audio meters, left and right channels, and they go all the way up to 0 dB on the far right hand side. You're looking, obviously, as with a lot of these things, to get your peaks between -12 and -6 dB, which is sort of 3/4 of the way up the travel for the meters. And then on the right hand side you have a low cut filter, which you press. Let's get it back to off. So it's off at the moment. Press it once, you get an 80 Hertz low cut filter. So it's cutting out all frequencies coming into the mics below 80 Hertz. The real low end rumble of microphone stands and passing traffic, air conditioning, that kind of thing. You can press it again up to 120 Hertz, 160 Hertz, and then back to off altogether, which is quite nice, that feature there, that you've got a low cut filter built in. Reduce any, as I said, handling noise or unwanted noise coming in, bass frequencies. The next button down is audio. That's where you can change the settings between the different audio recording formats. So if I go to the first one, is 44.1 kilohertz, 16-bit, so that's commonly referred to as CD quality. Then we go up in quality to 48 kilohertz and 24-bit sound, and finally the highest setting available, and that's reduced the recording time by about 3 hours or 2.5 hours here, is 96 kilobytes kilohertz, sorry, 96 kilohertz, 24-bit. So that's the highest audio quality it will capture. I'll probably leave it set to the middle one for now, which is 48 kilohertz, 24-bit sound, and 720p on the resolution for now, 24 frames a second video. The final button on the right hand side here is the auto gain control. You can have that essentially different sensitivities of the mics, sorry. So that first one is concert, which would be quite a loud sound. Next one is solo, which reduces the increases the sensitivity of the mics a little bit for a slightly quieter sound than a concert, and then up to meeting, which puts the mics at their most sensitive for, as I said, capturing a meeting or conversation or interview or that kind of thing. And then finally, what I'll be using all the time is auto gain set to off. And the reason I'll be doing that is because quite nicely on the side, on this side of the camera, we have a gain control here, which is really nice because it's like an analog wheel going from 0 all the way up to 10. And you can set the gain control yourself until you're happy with the peaks on the meters, that you're not clipping the audio. So I'll be using auto gain set to off, and I'll be manually adjusting the gain myself on the side here on that dial. Below that you have two sockets. One is USB, where you can plug the camera into your computer to use it as a webcam or a streaming camera for Facebook Live and all that kind of stuff. It does support USB power, so when it's plugged into your computer, I don't think it's coming off the batteries, which is quite a nice feature. You can also, when you plug it into your computer, select between webcam, card reader, and then this USB mic. So you get that option when it senses a computer's plugged in. If you select card reader mode, then the device shows up as a folder in your Finder on Mac or Explorer on Windows, and you can then drag and drop the video and audio files directly from the folder without having to keep taking the memory card in and out, which is quite nice. And then below that then you have one of those mini HDMI jacks, so you can play back directly to a HD TV or other playback devices via the HDMI socket there at the very bottom. Zoom don't include in the package with the camera any leads, which is a bit of a pain. You just get the camera itself, but we've all got these sort of leads kicking around, and if you haven't, then they're very readily accessible or available at low cost. So you'll need to get those if you want to use those features on the camera. And on the very bottom, let me just turn this off for a second. It does have an auto power off. If it senses no recording for 1 minute, it just shuts the screen off, and if it senses nothing at all for 5 minutes, it powers off entirely to save your batteries, and that's adjustable. You can adjust the amount of time before it does that. On the base of the camera, we have standard battery compartment. They've got the 3 rubber feet and the tripod mount that I spoke about earlier on, but in there then you have 2 AA batteries. And then in the centre, just here, you have the memory card slot for a micro SD. I would recommend a class 6 or higher. I use a class 10 because HD video needs fast write speeds on memory cards if it's not going to stutter or buffer. So I would use a class 10 if you want my advice. Okay, so you're now looking at my dining room, although there's not much dining going on. You're now looking at my dining room through the eyes of the Q2n. I'm standing behind the unit, so the sound might be muffled, I don't know, it's hard to tell. And you're currently looking through the widest angle setting. I'm going to now press the field of view and slowly crop the shot or zoom in so you can see. We'll go from this, and there are 5 levels. So this is level 1 at the widest, level 2, level 3, level 4, and finally that's as tight as you can get. So you can see the top of the drum kit and the amps on the right hand side and the guitar headstocks, and then back to the wide field of view. And you can see on the left hand side, certainly there, the door frame beginning to show that slight fisheye effect because it's at its widest setting. Sound is currently set to 48 kilohertz 24-bit. and the video quality is 720p at 24 frames a second cinema. The scene setting at the moment is auto, so that will adjust automatically for lighting conditions. The low cut filter is off and the auto gain is off, and I've set the gain level because I'm behind the camera quite high. It's currently on about 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, on about 8 out of 10 at the moment because I'm behind the camera and it's only my voice. Right, let's have a look at the scene presets at wide angle. So the first one is auto, which you're looking at now. This one is outdoor. This is called sunset. This is nighttime or night. This one is concert light. This one is concert low light. This is concert hall. This one is jazz club. This one is dance club. And now we have rehearsal studio. Finally, the last preset on the lighting, or the scene as they call them, is garage, which is this one. Okay, so that's a little tour of the Q2n itself. I suppose now it's time to see how does it sound, because really if you're interested in this kind of a camera, then the main reason you're buying something like this is for the high quality sound. So it'd be quite important to make sure you're happy with the sound capabilities of the unit. For the purpose of this video, all I have available to me here at the moment is a bass stack and a bass guitar and some acoustic stuff behind me. I'm not going to play electric and embarrass myself, but what I will be doing later this week is taking this into the studio with the band. So that's a full 4-piece, 2 guitars, drummer, me on bass and vocals, a 4-piece rock band. We're loud, we play too loud in the studio space, so it'd be interesting to see how it copes with that, and I'm going to put those videos up on YouTube later on this week after the rehearsal's done and after I've had a chance to edit them down and cut them into different songs. So I'll do some sound samples now. I'll do a bit of acoustic so you can hear what it sounds like filmed with this. I'll show you the different field of view settings on the camera. I'll show you the different lighting presets through the camera that you can see how it responds to that. I'll play some bass guitar through the amp, and then what I will do, and this is what I was referring to earlier on, I took some rough and ready footage yesterday. I only got this a few days ago. They only came out just before Christmas 2017, and everywhere in the UK was out of stock and wasn't going to have them in until January. So as soon as this came into stock on Amazon, they've got 10 units. I think I ordered one immediately for next day delivery. So I've not had it very long, but what I did do was my middle son, who's 15, he's a bit of a rock drummer, so proud, and he's doing his grade 5 rock drums at the moment, but at home he has a Roland TD1-KV electronic drum kit with a mesh snare, and we set this up in his bedroom very quickly yesterday. And what I did was I took out of the headphone jack of the drum module on the Roland kit is I took a headphone splitter that gave me 2 3.5mm sockets. He plugged his headphones into one so he could hear himself playing, and I got a 3.5 to 3.5mm audio cable and plugged it in the second 3.5 socket, and then on into the stereo input in the side of this. So essentially what that gave us was a direct feed of the drum sounds, the electronic drum sounds that he was hearing through his headphones directly into this. So it bypassed the mics. When you plug anything into the input socket here, it switches off the microphones. So that gave us a direct drum sound from the Roland kit into the device, coupled with the HD video of the device. And it's fair to say it sounded superb. We were both, well, I think it did anyway. So I'll put a little clip of that on at the end so you can hear that direct sound. But you could take a direct sound from electronic drum kit, you could take it from a keyboard, You could take it from a mixing desk, a stereo feed from a mixing desk, and if any one of you has watched my previous videos on the R24 multi-track recorder with 8 inputs, 8 XLR inputs, what you could also do, and I'm going to try this, is take a stereo feed from the R24 directly into this, and essentially what that will give you is a HD video camera with 8 XLR inputs, and all of the compression, reverb, delays, EQs, everything else that the R24 will give you directly into this, which is quite staggering really. So I'm going to try that as well and see how that works out. But for now, that's enough of me talking. In summary, so far, and I've only had it a couple of days, very pleased with it, very pleased with the results. Can't wait to get into the studio and have a practice with the boys and see how that works out. So keep an eye out for those videos later this week. Up to now, we've been using an iPhone. The sound quality is appalling. The field of view of the camera is quite narrow, and so we can't get all 4 of us into shot. And as I said before, very often it's the drummer that suffers because he's the one with the biggest instrument. So looking forward to trying it in the studio and can't wait to see how it handles those loud sound pressure levels. So for now, let's have a look through the eyes of this, play about with the various settings and give you some sound samples. Okay, so with the lighting preset set to auto, I've turned the gain level down to about 4 or 5 out of 10 because I'm now right in front of the camera and the microphone. So obviously I can't see the gain levels at the moment, they're on the back of the camera, so I'm hoping this is going to be okay without clipping. Acoustic, unplugged, no pickups or anything activated, and I'm going to just strum a bit and sing a bit, and so you can judge for yourselves the quality of the sound. Little Mary was 5 years old. Her parents left her, she was out in the cold, alone to live and find her way in this great world of heartache and pain. Now, I'm hitting the guitar fairly hard, particularly at the end there. What I would recommend strongly that you do, if you're listening to this video back on a laptop or an iPhone through YouTube, is stick some headphones in, because ultimately it doesn't matter how great the mics are on any camera, they're going to be limited by the crappy speakers on the iPhone or the laptop. So you really need, if you want to assess the sound quality of this, you need to be wearing headphones. Even earbuds are better than nothing, but if you've got a decent set of headphones, then stick them on. So we'll have a go on the bass and see how that sounds. Okay, so let's have a go with the bass and see how that sounds. Just for reference, I have Ampeg PF500 head, a 15-inch Ampeg matching Portaflex cab, Jack Cassidy bass, mid setting on the flipping booster switch, whatever you call that thing. And we'll try just fingerstyle. It's set fairly loud for this this space, so I don't know what. I hope it doesn't clip, but we'll try fingerstyle and then a bit of pick. Finally folks, as promised, I'll show you a short clip now of my middle son Ethan playing his Roland kit directly into the camera. If you see him banging the sticks at the beginning and don't hear any sound, then that's because the mics on the camera are deactivated by virtue of having something plugged in directly, and so all you'll actually hear is the sound of the drums when they're hit. So you can get a bit of a feel for that. Hope you've enjoyed the video. I'm going to sign off now and leave you with Ethan playing us out on his drums. Just a very scrappy video we put together very hurriedly just to try out the camera, because we were both quite excited to give it a whirl and see what it sounded like, and as I said, we were really chuffed with the results. Keep an eye out later this week for videos of the band in the studio. You'll get a real good feel then for what the camera's mics are capable of in a very loud sound environment, in quite a confined space, in quite dim light as well, so it'll be interesting to see how the scene presets cope with the lighting conditions in the studio. That's all for now. I hope you haven't missed me too much, and I hope this video hasn't been too rambly or long-winded for all of you impatient types, and all in all, it's a thumbs up from me so far for the Zoom Q2n.